All right, why don't we begin at 7 o'clock? Is there anybody wishing to engage in public participation?
Yes, I would, please.
Go ahead. Could you state your name?
Sure, it's Scott McCauley, 32 Walden Road. I had a couple of questions. I was watching the recording from the Conservation Commission the other evening, and there's been a proposal by this committee to put lights on the ball field that's behind the Woodville School. I'm just wondering, where the funds for that will be coming from. And it's been touted, promoted, advertised as being part of the high school building project. But my understanding is that that property is not part of the high school lot. That property is actually part of the Woodville School lot, and it's 30 Farm Street, not 60 as it's been advertised. There was also mention of a working group or subcommittee that reviewed the lighting for that. And I've heard mention of this before because I don't always get to attend live for these, but I do go back and watch the recordings. And there's been mention of that, but I haven't seen anything anywhere about a subcommittee or a working group. And I'm just wondering who the people on that working group were and when all of this was decided.
Well, first off, nothing's been decided yet on the lights. That's number one. Number two, the reason for the improvement to the Burnett Field is because we had to put a culvert. The town requested a culvert go through the field. We had to essentially cancel the season there while we did that work. And as a result of it, we are putting it back into where it was before and a couple improvements. It's all part of the project here, and that culvert work was part of the project.
Well, I understand that part of it. I understand part of wanting to do something for them, but this was not part of the original scope. And the money for this, there's no mention of what the costs are for this, whether it was put out to bid. This is a separate property than what was advertised as the public comment for this. It's not 60 Farm Street. 60 Farm Street is the actual high school building. The new high school is sitting on 0 Farm Street, which is the lot number. That lot is 30 Farm Street, which is the Woodville School, and it's not part of the high school property. They may use that field for the baseball, but it's not. So I think the whole thing, and even the advertisements, it just says lighting. It doesn't say 70-foot tall lighting, which is probably definitely taller than the Woodville School, but with the elevation in the back, you probably still didn't see it. I don't think many people were kind of aware of what was going on in the notifications that were put out. I think were very vague on this. So again, I'm asking because it was mentioned that evening that there was a subcommittee or a working group of who this working group was, when they got together to discuss all this. And then I didn't see where this came back before this committee to vote as a committee in total that this was going to take place. Now I realize it's still going through the process, but the committee would have had to vote for this to go to that process because you're expending money. I saw it was $800 something in postage to notify abutters. So I think the cart's before the horse a little bit, but again, so who was the working committee on this?
So I can answer all those questions, and I think you're, the cart before the horse is not the case. I think you're reading.
So
let me speak.
Well, I don't know who's speaking. I'm sorry.
I didn't have to interrupt you. I'm Chip Tarville. I'm a member of the PBC Permanent Building Committee. Okay. I'm part of the working group. Joe Bertrand, the head of the PBC, is part of the working group. And okay. Renzi is the third member of the working group. The working group gets together in an interim time to look at specific things and changes and things like that. And then we look at what's happening with the project and bring things back to this committee. You are correct that this committee has not voted on the lights because it has not been presented to this committee yet. We're looking at the feasibility of doing it and the costs. The costs also have not been presented to this group. When those things happen, it then will be decided where the money comes from.
McCauley, you're interrupting him. And if you continue to do so, that will be the end of your public participation. We've allowed you to be on more than even 5 minutes. So I am not going to allow you to go anymore if you interrupt people when we're talking. Okay?
I can't see who's speaking because it just says public safety. So I'm not sure who is actually
Chairman of the
talking.
Permanent Building Committee, and that's another
Okay.
one, Mr. McCauley.
We'll try to solve that.
Okay, thank you. I'm
All
sorry,
right.
go ahead. Yes.
No, go, you're done.
So we're trying to answer your question. So the working group then comes back to the full committee on these monthly meetings and gives an update. And right now, there's been no pricing presented. The options are being looked at, and we're asking Concom what their thoughts are. So until Concom tells us what their thoughts are, there's no reason to bring it any farther, because they may say, no, we don't want you to do it. Or they may say, yeah, we want you to do it with these stipulations. And then we bring all the pricing and everything back to this committee. But your point of properties and all of that, the Burnett Field was part of the original project submission to the town that was approved. So having a minor modification to the plans is accurate and the way to go forward. So that's where we stand. I mean, it's great that you have some questions. Love the fact that you come and watch and are interested. That's all great, but nothing's been decided. Nothing's been voted on. So your ability to not find it is accurate because it hasn't been any of that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to also just mention that, keep in mind that these are all recorded, so that people may not be here at the moment, but they do go back and listen, and prior comments, and somebody I don't recall say it is in public participation, that's great, because we wouldn't listen to you anyhow. I think you just probably should be careful of what you say during some of these meetings, because it is for posterity. So just throwing that out there. But thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for your participation.
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody else involved in public participation? Gary? Oh. Hearing none?
So tonight we have some administrative actions, the meeting minutes, and review and approval of the monthly invoices, as well as a budget update. We also have bonds internal change order 8 and 2 designer contract amendments 11 and 12 to review and approve. Then we're going to have a design and construction update. We'll talk about what the Conservation Commission had to say when we were there last Tuesday, and we're going to look at the Burnett Field lighting as well as the parking lot lighting. This will be the first time that this group has looked at it as a whole. We'll give a schedule update and any new business later.
All right, first is the review of the Permanent Building Committee minutes for February 13, 2025.
I move that we approve the February 13th minutes as written.
I second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, they're approved.
Okay, I move that we approve left field construction administration invoice number 44 for the sum of $145,000.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes.
Jason,
Yep.
Phil,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Wayne,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
unanimous.
I move that we approve SMMA's total for construction administration of $104,017, for other reimbursables of $143, for hazmat for $361.68, for a total of $104,621.68.
I will second that.
Any questions? Discussion? Seeing none. Chip,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Mark. Yes. Wayne,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
unanimous.
I move that we approve bonds total for $3,449,664.50, which is less $174,616.53 that's being retained and withheld till completion of sub-trades.
I will second that.
Any discussion?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah,
So is this how we're gonna see all of the bond invoices? Like you're always gonna call it the retainage that's being held?
yes.
Okay.
There's a backup material of 100 and some 75 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, I saw that,
Yeah.
yeah. No, retainage is always like a funny thing that how it's balanced, so I was just wondering how that is, and then we'll be informed when it's time to release retainage.
We have to vote to release it.
Got it, okay.
It'll
Okay.
show up on here as, instead of retainage withheld, it will say retainage release.
Release, yeah, okay.
Okay, any further questions, discussion?
Did I second that yet? Second.
I don't know, did you?
Yeah, remember?
Good question.
We were voting, right?
All right. Chip,
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Art? Yes. Wayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Yes.
Question was so good, I forgot if I seconded.
Yes, no, no.
I move that we approve UTS's materials testing and inspections invoice 116116 for the sum of $11,449.50.
You second.
Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, Chip?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
And Chris, as you well know that UTS, nothing gets retained.
Yeah.
That isn't, as I'm sure that's done with all your projects. So the total for tonight was $3,710,735.68.
All right, next is the budget update.
Yes, so to date, we have committed 92% of the budget and expended 23%. We're still holding the construction budget at $223,897,739. And we have an uncommitted budget of $21,904,615. Our owner's construction contingency has remained untouched. And our owner's soft cost contingencies, we've had a few contract amendments against that. And you'll see here that I've reflected everything, even the ones that you're going to be voting on tonight, just so you see where the budget stands. And that's basically at 1.9 million now.
Any questions on the budget? Okay, Lynn?
So we're tracking above our originally projected cash flow. And this really has everything to do with the progress that Bond is making on the project.
Any questions or discussion?
Can I just ask a question?
Yep.
So we just approved the bond, which had some 173,000 of steel on there. And I know we've heard all along we're ahead on that. So how far ahead are we, or are we done with the steel costs for the basic where we are now? Okay, that's good.
That's very.
See, I wonder why that's good. Oh,
Just shows we're on schedule, that's all.
We still have Miss Metals costs.
There's some,
yeah, but
The majority.
we're gonna be talking of that subject at the end.
Like a lot of the missed metals, the stairs are in production at this point. So a lot of the materials have been bought to date and are whiz subs. Although, great question, because all our steel came across the border.
Just in time. Any other questions? Lynn?
So we have an internal change order number 8 up for approval tonight. We've shown you the dollar amount of each of these changes on the right-hand side. However, it's as you'll see on the next page, it's a $0 change because we had holes in allowances and construction contingency that have been used to fund these various changes. So it's not a change to the contract sum of the GMP, it's just really a use of holes, allowances, and contingency.
The working group has reviewed all of these to length, and what you'll also see over on this left-hand side, because we're always curious, how did they get vetted? Well, these are through 3 revisions of vetting, through 2 revisions of vetting, so it happens, and that's what the working group looks at is how has it come, who's marked up what, and how did we get to these numbers?
But also know, just because there's no rev on there, they still have been vetted by the design team.
Right, but you don't need to vote once.
Can somebody explain what PCO 609 is?
PCO 609 is taking bid package 2, which was the earlier trades, and getting up to the full GMP.
So we bought out bid package 2 with all the subs without the benefit of them seeing the full design package. Once the design package was complete, they go back and look at it and pick up any miscellaneous scopes of work that were in the full design.
On the first page, I'm just wondering, what was the request from the abutter that we needed to change?
That was
That was, yeah, the
Those-
Wiley
the
Street.
fence, the pine trees, the
Remember
slope,
the slope and all
all that
that.
discussion behind the building. That was never part. It was contemplated to do something. We didn't know quite what we were doing on that bid package.
Thanks.
I think we asked the question too, is we think we're caught up now with most of the change orders or attacking the allowance from the bid package that we first set the GMP on to now. So we think we've caught, am I correct that we've caught up with most of those allowances and holds?
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Our bells right here.
I'm hoping we get, oh, there it is. Read it up there.
Okay.
I move that we approve the
Just in case
internal
you
change
couldn't read.
order number 8 as presented this evening.
I will second that.
Is there any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, we'll go the other way. Aaron?
Yes.
Richie?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And Chip?
Yes.
Unanimous.
So we have 2 designer contract amendments. This one we've spoken about on numerous working group meetings. And this is the additional geotechnical observations and monitoring on site. It's for the amount of $46,816. Again, we brought on the services of LGCI in the schematic design phase when they first put in their proposal. We've had some changes along the way, and this is for additional services to accommodate the changes to the scope of work.
And if I'm right, this takes us through the end of the project
Yes.
as we
Yeah.
anticipate it currently,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yes.
Just for the record, I have a lot of questions. At this point, I had to go through a lot of hoops.
Joe questioned this exhaustively, so I feel confident that this has been backed up and needed. I think micro piles was a big reason of the added work that they were needed full days, so it's needed. Good job.
Do they work?
Well, no, they didn't provide the invoices.
I know, we don't need to talk anymore about
All
it.
right, Aaron, I talked enough about it.
Question, do they work?
Yeah,
through-
Aaron,
Do they work through SMMA or through Wakefield? or
through
direct?
SMMA,
SMMA.
Somebody's consultant.
Gotcha.
yeah.
So SMMA is responsible for tracking time and scope and.
And
Also-
left field.
And what field does that?
Right.
Mark
Actually,
does that.
their invoices are very well documented, the hours on site. the days, everything. They're one of the consultants that
That's
really do
questionable.
provide good detail.
And
That's
if you're,
questionable.
I don't know, I mean, you're getting the Mark's daily stuff now?
Yes, everyone is.
Well, have you seen Mark's daily reports and pictures?
In the, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So if you actually look and read that, he'll list every company and when they've been
Right.
here and how much. So between that and SMMA, there's two sets of eyes on all those bills to begin with. And then hopefully they get documented correct.
Any other questions or comments? None. Aaron,
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Oh, you gotta put a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
You're ahead
know.
of yourself.
All right, well, you guys,
That never happens. You're ahead of yourself.
that's for sure.
I move that we approve the designer contract amendment number 11 in the amount of $46,816 for additional on-site geotechnical observation as presented this evening.
And I will second that.
Aaron,
Yes.
Chrissy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Wayne,
Yes.
Bill, Mark. Mark,
Yes.
oh, I forgot Mark.
It's the beer.
Jason, Jim.
Yes.
Just stick with one way.
I know, I try to be different, you know,
Do an alphabet.
Oh, God.
do it by alphabetical order, I'm in trouble.
We'll be here all night.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to do the alphabet, oh my God.
Let me get the cheat sheet.
Yeah, where's the cheat sheet? All right, the next one is, the SMMA
This would be-
contract amendment for, electrical engineering, traffic consultant. This has to do with,
Lot H.
Lot H, which is the lot where the trailers are. Just so everybody knows what Lot
So
H is.
the school administration requested that, the temporary, lot be turned into a permanent lot because they thought it'd be useful for sports and, just extra parking for the school. So this, contract amendment number 12 is for the design team to look at that and design it and bring it back to the table for approval.
Nice.
This is the plan. It was originally, a little smaller than that. The working group, we made it a little bigger.
It was originally for 88 spaces. This is now
No,
for.
originally 80. Now it's 88.
So 86. We added 6 more spaces.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's
And landscaping.
there's landscaping involved.
I'm just loving that rotary.
Okay, well, when everybody complains about it, we'll send all phone calls.
It's a roundabout and stuff.
There'll be a sign there.
There
Call Jason if you have any complaints.
There will need to be, meetings with the Traffic Advisory Commission, because they want us, SMMA to do some modeling on the queuing as it goes into the roundabout. So there's a good bit of work with the community as well as just the design.
Do we also have the Conservation Commission, right? Possibly.
Some education might be
They're outside
required
of
too.
the wetlands buffer, but
Having seen people go on the 129 rotary, they don't really know how to enter and leave it, so we may wanna.
They call it Indianapolis.
That one's
Being stupid lines on this.
Well, I try to follow the lines and
that
I
one's
get
too big,
confused.
that's why it's like, this one will be smaller.
No
and
lines.
easier.
Yeah.
So-
Would it be helpful to access the lot on the left?
Off of Farm
Do
Street.
an
another-
interesting
yeah.
question.
Another entrance
Yes.
there?
You would just lose a couple parking spaces. Potentially.
Yeah.
Pull right in.
And I think there's a
Okay,
whole
uses
nother
a cut
world
through.
about coming out onto Farm Street.
Cut through.
Maybe one way in.
There'd have to be a right
Just
turn
one
only.
way in,
I
not
mean,
an
It's a
exit.
good, I think,
Yeah.
it's a good option to think about it. Comes up.
Well, let's see if TAC, what TAC. says.
Yeah.
We can always-
Yeah, we can see what the traffic advisory people say.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know,
definitely
Yeah,
worthy
so
of
the
discussion.
recommendations,
Yeah.
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 So we are trying to keep it. We'll see what they say.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
We did bring that up with the traffic engineer and they did not recommend it.
Okay.
Why is
Why
that?
not?
Why?
Do they have like, it's like people coming from one direction trying to get across it?
Making
or-
people trying to make left turns into it from
I
the
don't
other
know why,
lane.
I can find it.
Yeah.
I'm sure because Farm Street's a lot busier than
Oh, yeah.
Hemlock Road.
Yeah, sure.
Crossing into that versus coming off the rotary to turn.
I guess you could left.
It's also a substantial grade change to go from Farm Street into that lot.
Really?
Is it? It's
Yeah,
lower
more
than
than you
higher?
think, like 5, 6 feet.
Yeah, you're right, it drops
It
down.
drops down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't recognize it so much now because the trailers and fencing is up. But if you look, it's a pretty good drop there. So as just kind of a follow-up on this is the plan that we're moving forward with. The next step would be the amendment to help SMMA look at this, to get numbers pulled together. Then that will all come back to this committee after like TAC's comments and all of that. And then we can decide whether we want to fund it or not.
Was this originally just put back to grass?
Yes,
That area? Okay.
yes. Because it was all part of.
Yeah.
The section there was part of moving Hemlock Road because DCR had a easement there and it was pretty complicated, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a
Great
good
idea.
And then once we've seen how this lot works now, we also realize that there's not a ton of parking for Beasley Oval and for the baseball field.
Yeah.
So this would aid and assist weekends, town, not just the school. And the other thing is to get, another 80-something cars off of Farm Street,
Yes.
which is a neighborhood cry out every year.
Yeah.
Well, everybody wants to park in front of Jerry's house. I don't know what the problem is.
So that's an update on the two things where we stand for the lights at Burnett and for this parking lot.
I think we have another slide.
Just one second. Peter, do you have anything to add to that discussion?
Sure. Yeah. Peter Rebuck, civil engineer with SMA. I coordinated this sketch with our traffic engineer. And the one concern with coming right onto Farm Street was the old Nahant Road driveway, just south of this image. You can sort of see it, and just the adjacency there. So we can definitely look into it again, but there was some concerns as to why they didn't recommend it and just having the driveway onto Hemlock.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. We got another. What's the next?
Sorry, I have unstable internet connection.
Uh-oh.
It's just the emotion.
There we go.
I put the.
So I move that we approve the designer contract amendment number 12 in the amount of $54,178 for design and oversight of the conversion of temporary parking lot H to a permanent condition.
Second that.
Any further discussion or comments?
This will be coming out of soft cost contingency.
Is that right?
Yes, we did good.
Yeah.
Seven projects later.
Finally figuring it out. Jeff, now that you figured it out?
Yes.
Thank you. Jason?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Wayne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chrissy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Moving right along.
So what happened to the Burnett Field page?
What?
sheet?
I put it in the construction. Do you want me to skip ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
The construction progress?
No, just
We got one
just
more.
Burnett.
Okay, go back to the,
Oh, okay.
go back one. So this goes to the discussion that the gentleman brought up earlier. And also goes back to the Conservation Commission meeting that we had on Tuesday night. Peter, do you want to talk about this with the lighting and what the Conservation Commission asked and what we're going back to them with on Tuesday night?
Sure, I can, unless someone else wants to. Yes, we
No, go ahead, Peter.
we, the design team, filed, as Chip mentioned earlier, an amendment to the approved notice of intent with the Conservation Commission, due to the fact that 2 of the 4 proposed lights are within the 100-foot buffer zone of the wetland resources. So we presented this plan. We gave them some cut sheets of the lights. These are performance grade sports field lights. Musco is the manufacturer that will likely be producing them. So we presented this plan, and there were 2 main concerns from the commission. One was the operation of the lights in terms of timing, when they will be used, how often, that sort of thing. And the other concern was if they would meet dark sky compliance as well as other environmental regulations. So we're currently working on those 2 issues. We've just have discussions with the athletics department, as well as we're working with the manufacturer to understand environmental compliance that we can have with these lights. And we're presenting again next Tuesday to the commission.
One of the questions was whether Musco has dark sky. Do we know the answer to that?
So Dark Sky is an organization that provides guidelines for lighting. Dark sky compliant is what you would hear most often when you're working on a building. But because sports field lightings are so performance based, they have a separate program where they can certify sports field lighting. So we're working on having a design that will be certifiable by Dark Sky, which is a little bit convoluted, but it's a way of saying that they will meet requirements that Dark Sky as an organization has set forth for sports field lighting.
Because there's a certain amount of lighting that is needed when you're dealing with a softball field or whatever, any athletic field, right?
I would think so.
Correct. Yeah, the requirements for a sports field program are different than, say, a pedestrian path or a parking lot.
Are we bound by dark sky? Like, is that
No. It was just a question. It was a question asked at the conservation commission.
Could they make it a requirement if it's not, like, or they're just asking us to consider it? Like,
They were asking whether
Whether it could meet, and they found out that it
if
can.
you do a design, they'll stamp it and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the ZBA, almost every residential project now is dark sky
Yeah, we don't
compliant.
want landscape lights facing the sky.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
And the other thing, so they just had some questions and good questions. I think we answered them all pretty well, except for these 2 issues, which I think if we come back with some options, that'll be great. And I have heard that Tim O'Brien has worked up how the operations of the lights will.
I received a 2 or 3 page memorandum on the process for turning on and off the lights at the various athletic fields today. And that was sent to the Conservation Commission, so, because they'll have it by today for their consideration on Tuesday.
I would just suggest too that you, the light study, make sure that the neighbors that are to the plant southwest here aren't impacted. So that's.
Yeah, so we've asked for a photometric as well.
Yeah.
But then if you look at those, they're all shielded top sides, so right now, when you look at the photometrics of either the Burnett field or anything else, it's pretty tight to
Directional,
right
directional.
where it is.
Yeah, they're so good nowadays.
Yeah, so much different than it used to be.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, that was the other question that came up, is why couldn't the lights that were at the old field be reused? And that got looked at in depth at the beginning, at the Burnett. Why those gonna be used?
Oh, the
here?
Oh,
Yeah, the old oval.
The old oval lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And given the age and the non-directional and the non-LED and everything else, there was no reason to even cost, and the cost of taking them down and then putting them back up, it made it infeasible.
Any other questions or comments?
so,
You have a motion to approve, is that what we're doing here?
no, there's nothing to approve yet.
All right.
This is just to start the design.
Okay.
We already did it with the
Sorry.
design.
All right,
This is the
This is the tariff update. Just
Okay,
so
great.
everyone knows that based on where we are, construction, we felt it was prudent to reserve 2.2 million of our supplemental contingency, which really represents the 1% of our construction budget. We're doing that for any materials that we haven't bought yet. And we looked at a lot of analysis that have been out there. I think a couple of the larger construction companies put out analysis, Turner and Suffolk. And we've also looked at a couple of other schools that are heading into construction and how they analyzed what they were going to hold for construction contingency. But for the most part, people were saying 3 to 5% as a project just starting out, but because we're where we are in construction, we thought 1% was a little more accurate. However, the tariff percentage seems to change on a daily basis.
Hourly.
So this
Hourly.
is hourly.
Yeah,
So
good,
this
it's
is
already
our,
different now.
this is our best guess to try to protect ourselves at this point in time.
And Bond had done a whole log on the.
And we do have a very extensive log of procurement that's left that Bond did and projected procurement for each line item, so we'll track it as we go.
That's additional where we base the 1% construction cost.
That was, so the bond more detailed came out close to the
Yeah.
2.2.
It's a little higher than that, but we were,
Revere is one, like, that's 1.5%. Like 1.5% for us would be closer, I think, to 3.3.
and that's about,
Right?
you guys are at what?
Like Revere, the Revere example is 1.45%. So
Yeah,
like, why aren't we going high? Why aren't we being more conservative with the uncertainty of this? And we can always change the whole, right? Like, if we vote on this, is this set to the end of the project?
We don't have, we're not voting on
There's
it.
no
Right.
vote.
the only
What
thing
is
we're
this then?
saying is
This is
that
for information purposes.
It's just,
For information purposes, should we reserve more than 2.2 million?
That's a good question, but we
Yeah.
don't have to vote on it because it's our contingency,
So
Was
this is
it
just
bonds contingency or our contingency?
our contingency.
it's sitting within the GMP.
Of which we
right?
had, what, like 21 million right now? Right? Was that the number you
No,
said?
that's not even touching that contingency
okay.
yet. This is a reserve inside the GMP contingency.
So this is the GMP contingency.
What does the last bullet point mean? Can you explain that again?
Last
Compared
bullet
to-
point, I think most,
Brand new starting.
like some of these projects that haven't started yet
Oh,
at
the
all.
one- Right, got it. Not the ones that are, they're looking at 3 to 5.
We're not transferring any funds, so it's.
Yeah, but so this is more for discussion. So we could say 10 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything.
No,
Right.
because like I said,
I just.
the tariff probably just changed. But
Okay.
we have to be,
Back of our minds when we're
Yes.
spending money, we want to
Yes.
try to keep a number
Yes.
any day. And then,
Exactly.
we- understood.
As we
Yeah.
look at lights, as we look at parking lot.
Yeah.
As we look at things that may affect.
Log has like country and you can just change the multiplier, it
Correct.
changes the value.
We did that, yeah. Can I get a copy of that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, could that come out maybe just
I
like
can
with the,
share.
with the monthly materials?
We
Yeah.
can share right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
Okay, you got it?
materials, yeah.
You want to put it on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great to
And
see
then
it.
once you receive the
Share.
material.
Yeah, but it could be like an appendix each month of the materials. We can see where we stand.
check things off when they.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to reduce the risk, you know?
there they are.
Yeah.
So
Their total was 2.5, 2.6, right?
the total of them.
Of potential.
Potential.
5%, because that's a percentage on the raw material.
Correct.
Yeah,
We try to be conservative throughout this whole thing. We highlighted the 5% because that's the raw material growth.
That's correct.
And then, like you see, millwork, that is coming from Canada, so we have the full 25% there, because it's gonna be manufactured and then shipped over. So that's how we kind of did it. So we can adjust That's different percentage of formulated.
Yeah, cool.
It is a very expensive log, obviously.
So what is that? What is the bottom line on this sheet?
Wasn't it 2.5?
It's 6 of 6. 3.1. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's closer to like the 1.5%. But it's just a number to think about.
At the moment, that's all it is.
And we're still talking to subs, so like, where we have a lot of the raw materials are already in the country, so we're just trying to figure that out and work through it.
One thing just to note, like, so some of the, I know there was some talk about, aluminum tariff. So obviously, I think about, I think that one was 25%. But that would just be on raw material. So even if it was locally produced, there's likely a market correction for raw aluminum. So any component that has aluminum, we wouldn't be hit with the overall full tariff number. It would be a percentage of the raw material that's baked into the finished product. So maybe that's closer to 5% as opposed to the full tariff impact. So it's just we're trying to hedge some of these, and it's obviously changing every day, but just trying to get to go off the best information we have. Some of these materials, for instance, like the light gauge metal framing, quite a bit of that material has either been delivered or is secured locally. So although there might be a risk for the raw material in the future, if we already have 50% of the contract already on site, we can knock that down. So there is a little bit of estimating here, but there's logic behind it.
What percentage of your light gauge metal framing do you have on site? A good percentage, right?
So for the Sherry, I know we were taking delivery for soon. I don't know if we physically have it, but it's in a local supply house, right?
So we've taken delivery of the first floor exterior framing for A, that's on site. And the second floor is being delivered late next week, third floor early the following week. So it's obviously in a warehouse locally. We've taken, if I had to guess, I'd say maybe 10%, maybe close to 15 of the interior stud framing, because we're doing a lot of the early walls between the second and the first floor as well. But low percentage on the interior stuff. But I mean, again, a lot of that stuff is locally warehoused. It's hard to say what they're still shipping in and not.
Any further questions or comments?
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a lot of work. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcus.
Brendan did a lot of.
All right, Brendan, sorry. I'll go.
It's always the quiet one.
You gotta worry about them, All right.
Good.
Next. Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Tell us a story. Run it up on our big screen, Jerry, if you didn't know.
I can get it too slow.
All right, Jerry, your turn.
All right. So in terms of construction progress, I can go by the photos. I do have my look ahead here for kind of where we're at. We are, what you can't see in the picture, the mock-up that's over in Lot H, that is under construction finally. The structure of it is up. We are actually putting the roof on it tomorrow, and should be getting the air and vapor on it next week in preparation for the windows. So we've been talking with Sunrise and Lockheed about getting those windows going on the week of the 24th. And that's all in anticipation of Lighthouse Masonry coming out to to get us going on the masonry for that as well. So there are some sample panels that they're working up. Just I believe it's for mortar colors to look at those with the brick and stuff. So everything forthcoming with that. In terms of the site, though, we are certainly making lots of progress on the building. Quigley has been busy over the last months, doing all the under slab utilities inside the building with the plumber, Amonte and Griffin, the electrician. We're down in building D and F currently doing the main electrical distribution from the main electric room, as well as doing all the storm piping in D building. Next week, we're actually going to get into the sanitary and the grease waste piping for the kitchen, starting at the low point in F and kind of bringing that back through into D over to the kitchen area. So good progress there. We did also complete the balance of the drainage on the north side of the building, closer to the softball field. And this week, we actually did get in the balance of the Tel Data duct bank, brought that into the corner of D building and wrapped that up. We're going to be backfilling that tomorrow. I think on the previous updates, we had talked about the electrical at the north end of the site. The transformer pads have all been set at this point. We did finish over the last month the area around that, bringing up the curb and all the oil containment area to get up to the finished pads. So we're in talks with Gas and Light about getting the transformers set in early April, because they did take delivery of those. They're honestly looking to get them out of their yard. So be good to get them on site and just have them there at our disposal. So in terms of other site work, Wiggly's got coming up. They're going to be working on the drainage at the south end of the site, and just continuing to do the slab prep coming across the interior of the building. So moving on to concrete, we've got JL Marshall did get some of the slab on grade pours since we last met. We've got the A building slab on grade, as well as the first section in B completed, and we're targeting placement of the first structural slab next Thursday. And that will complete B building for slabs throughout. We have started the rebar in the C building structural slab on grade, and that's just going to keep continuing in the coming months, as we will finish up through C and then move on into D once all those utilities are completed there. Other concrete work that Marshall's been working on, they did get the first elevated slab in D. We placed half of the gymnasium yesterday, and we're placing the second half of it tomorrow. Happy to report they got a 66 on the flatness with a target of 50 in the specification. So huge success there yesterday. So we do have some other elevated slabs planned in the coming weeks with the balance of D building, the roof slabs, and the remaining section of the second floor. So hopeful to get the rest of the elevated slabs placed out by the end of the month, and again, just continue with the slabs on grade. We are going to start next week over in E building, finally, to get the stage wall construction going. And in the coming month or so, we'll end up starting to develop all the under slab utility and slab construction in that area as well. So moving up through the rest of the building, we've got Roman Iron is now on site doing stairwell construction. They're in A building currently. They're going to finish that stair tomorrow. That's going to be basically made safe with some guardrails so that we can place that out at the end of next week. They have plans to start on the first stairwell in B building next week. That one takes about 2 weeks to complete, and then we'll be on to the second stairwell in B and just keep kind of working our way through with those. We did start, excuse me, temporary standpipe installation this week as well with JCI and the fire protection. So we've been working with the fire department to get that temporary stuff online. We're actually meeting with them to go over the logistics of the fire department connection locations during construction. So lighthouse masonry is scheduled to start end of this month on construction of the first elevator shaft in C building. So that'll get going take roughly about a month to complete, and then they'll move over to D building to go on to the next. Century Drywall, as we mentioned, has been diligently working on early walls up on the second floor, basically getting all the corridors established. They've got some tops, drywall tops going in as well. They did take delivery of first floor interior framing today to kind of start the same. And late next week, they'll actually be starting on the exterior framing of A building. So I have Bond's labor force starting, well, actually, we've already started doing separation of A and B building on the inside just so that we can contain the heat for the fireproofing. And we're going to remove all the tarps on A building to allow that exterior framing to get started. So a little bit of a milestone there to get going on that stuff and start working towards closing in the outside. So with the air and vapor waterproofing companies coming back, we've got to do just a little bit of repair work to the brick shelf just ahead of that framing getting going. They will be on site tomorrow, working through the next week or so. PJ Spillane coming out to do the mock-up next week on Wednesday. And I've already got talks in with him about getting going towards the end of the month, once we have some framing and sheathing up on the building to get them going as well. Island fireproofing is currently on the third floor of A. They're set to finish that section tomorrow. We're going to bring them down to the cafeteria and C to work there for a couple of days before bringing them back up to the third floor of B building to continue there once we get enough of the roof established with Greenwood. Greenwood is finishing the A roof tomorrow. We finally got a good week of roofing behind us with the temperatures. Things seem to be taking a turn there, which is great. So probably going to work them Saturday, and with the idea that we're probably losing Monday at this point with the rain. So B building is going to take probably 2.5 weeks to complete. We did take delivery of all that stock last week, so we're already in talks with them about the C building deliveries once we do get through B. So lastly, just going through some of the work that's been ongoing with the MEPs. I mentioned earlier the plumber and the electrician have been working through D building with Quigley. So Amonte's largely set on kind of getting all the storm piping completed, but they're also working back in second floor of B on the bathroom rough for the gang bathrooms. That's all gotten underway. And we do have all of the storm piping for A, B, and C now tied into the underground, so that as the roof does get completed, all the roof drains are now draining to the newly installed storm system outside. So fire protection, like I said, we do have them on site now, starting to do the temporary standpipes and the stairs. So they'll be staying with us to start doing the overhead rough, following behind the other trades on 2. PJ Kennedy, the HVAC, doing all the pipe fitting. So they've been working on refrigeration piping through all of A and B building on second floor. And they're actually down on the first floor now doing all their hangers, taking delivery of pipe starting tomorrow. And they will be down on first floor starting pipe next week. They will have their insulator coming on site in the coming weeks once they do get some testing underway. And with the ductwork still under Kennedy, it's Worcester Air doing all that. They have completed second floor of A building, and they are taking delivery of their risers for that on Wednesday next week. But they're in process right now of completing the B building overhead rough. And then C building overhead rough will start on 3/26. So take us another 2 to 3 weeks to get through the remaining part of the second floor. Then they're going to be moving up to third floor to start on that. Now that we have the roof and the fireproofing taking shape up there. So lastly, with the electrician, He has been largely focused on basically the underground through D, E, and F buildings. The main electric room is largely taking shape with underground now. And they've also been basically kind of supporting us with the temp lighting around all the concrete placements and also getting all of their duct banks on the north side of the building completed. Like I said, we did complete the Tel Data duct bank this week. So I think that's pretty much where we're at for an update, unless anybody has any questions.
How's your ankle?
My ankle's killing me.
I don't think we're pushing Bond hard enough. I think Jerry could be doing more. That was only like 30 or 40 trades at the same time in there, right? Nice job, Jerry. You're doing a great job.
We broke 100 workers this week, so there's definitely plenty going on out there.
Excellent.
And his ankle.
And his ankle.
Broke it 100.
Do you want to go back and show the pictures just so
Please.
people can see it?
This mount stable clip connection.
Remember that.
So I just was gonna, we got some more drone photos, so I just want to show kind of the progression. This is back in October. This is the loads. This is December. And then this is February.
Building.
Yeah. Just from a different angle.
That. HVAC. Nice.
Okay,
Nice.
any questions on schedule or anything from Jerry?
Next meeting,
Next meeting
next
is
tour is April 3rd.
April 3rd.
Next meeting is April 10th.
The tour's at 4:30, right?
4.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
Yeah. And then there's just a note here, at the end of the month, unless the governor extends it, the temporary provision, which has now been in place for 5 years about letting public meetings be held remotely expires. So what that means is the quorum has to be present in person unless it's extended after.
We were all here tonight.
Exactly, but just so you know.
Cool.
So the town did send a letter to our legislative delegation, as I think probably every city and town in Massachusetts has, asking for an extension and asking them to act on that before the 31st. So hopefully nothing will change after that if the legislature can pass something and get the governor's signature before then, but it is a painful deadline for those of us that live in public meetings in Massachusetts.
Well, I think we've taken on so many more meetings than we ever did before that it's really going to be difficult to make them all in person.
Absolutely.
So you said the State House might make this more permanent, or just?
So the hope is the governor's does have legislation in front of the legislature that would make this permanent, which is the hope.
Okay.
They might not be able to enact that legislation, just given the timeline of where we are before the 31st, in which case it may just be another extension for a year or whatever. But yeah, no, it would be great if it were permanent. I mean, this is kind of the reality of life now.
I probably can't be the 10th, but hopefully have enough others present.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be here the 10th either.
Well, if they,
Is that school vacation week?
No, I'm traveling for.
Okay,
No, but I. Easter week.
Well,
School vacation's later in the month.
Aaron can't make Thursday, and Dave was kind enough, and Jerry, to make accommodations. And Aaron was able to go yesterday, and I went as well.
No, I mean for our meeting,
The next
the
meeting.
10th.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, but if you can't make the tour, let us know and we can make some arrangements for you. If that day is bad, we can probably make arrangements for you to go and walk. Jerry always says not on Friday afternoon, right, Jerry?
That's right.
Yeah, all right, I remember. All right, are there any other questions, comments, discussions, or anything we need to do tonight? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
To adjourn.
And second, and all in favor, please.
Yeah.
All right.